The skies above the Kivari capital city fractured like broken glass. Lightning slithered across. Storm clouds that had no right to exist, arcing from one obsidian spire to the next as the High Council chanted in unison. Below, the streets were packed with thousands of terrified citizens. They weren't praying to the council. They were praying to anyone who might hear. The beacon was awakening. The spire at the city's heart had stood dormant for generations. Its crystal veins, once thought to be inert relics of a forgotten age, now pulsed with white fire. The elders had always warned against activating it, claiming it was more curse than salvation. But with the Drexel swarm spreading across their star system like wildfire, there was no longer a choice. The council leader's voice cracked through the storm. By blood and memory, we call to the guardians. By despair, we summon those who once stood when all else fell. The ground shook. Energy howled into the sky, piercing the clouds and stretching into the stars. The crowd gasped as the storm bent unnaturally, clouds spiraling into a vast funnel that swallowed the horizon. For a moment, just a heartbeat hope flickered. They had heard the old stories, passed down like fading myths, of beings who had stood against the swarm in ancient times, who wielded weapons that shook the heavens themselves. The guardians, some said they were gods, others said angels, and a few whispered they were demons who only fought because no one else dared. Whatever they were, the galaxy had been silent since their disappearance, and yet the beacon called them. The light reached its peak, blinding, unbearable. A thunderclap split the heavens open. The funnel tore wide, becoming a ragged wound in the sky itself, and from it something came through. Not shining warriors, not divine giants. A ship dotted tumbled out of the wound like flotsam from a collapsing tide. Smoke trailed from its battered hull, panels scorched black, engines sputtering. No radiant aura, no celestial fanfare. Just the ugly, practical metal of a vessel, clearly not designed to look impressive. It slammed through the upper atmosphere, stabilizing just before it would have burned apart. Its hull was painted with strange markings, sharp-edged letters, alien to Kivari eyes. The crowd gasped, murmuring in confusion. This is wrong. This is not them. The council leader staggered, gripping the railing as the vessel hovered shakily above the spire. For a moment, no one dared breathe. Had they awakened the wrong power? Had the beacon, in its desperation, dragged anything it could find? Then the ship descended, extending awkward legs that crunched into the stone platform. The ramp hissed open, and out they came. Figures clad in armor, not of light, but of steel. Their faces, pale and hard, marked by fatigue and fire, weapons slung across their backs, not holy relics, but rifles humming with deadly intent. Their leader, a scarred man with sharp eyes, looked out at the sea of alien faces and said only one word, short, clipped, bewildered. Where the hell are we? The Kivari fell to their knees. The guardians had returned, but they were not gods. They were humans. The silence after their arrival was suffocating. The ship's ramp hissed, venting steam, and the humans descended one by one. Boots clanged against ancient stone, a sound alien to the Kivari, yet oddly familiar, like echoes from a forgotten time. The crowd of thousands dared not speak. Their prayers had summoned guardians of legend, but what stood before them looked nothing like gods. Their armor was scratched, dented, and patched together with practical repairs. Their weapons, though sleek and dangerous, were stained with use. The leader scanned the square with sharp, suspicious eyes, hand never straying far from the rifle slung at his chest. His people fanned out behind him with the wariness of soldiers who had seen too many ambushes. This was not divinity. This was survival, made flesh. The Kivari Council leader forced himself forward. His voice trembled as he addressed the strangers. You are the Guardians, are you not? The human commander frowned. Guardians. He turned briefly to his team. Anyone here call themselves that? A ripple of uneasy chuckles passed through the soldier's humor, sharpened by tension. The aliens flinched at the sound. The commander looked back at the council leader. No, we're explorers, test crew. We weren't supposed to be here at all, but the Kivari weren't listening. Their eyes had drifted past the humans to the statues that lined the plaza. Towering figures carved of black stone, their faces worn by centuries of storms. Yet the resemblance was undeniable. Squared jaws, deep-set eyes, broad-shouldered frames. They were human. The crowd gasped as realization spread like wildfire. The murals carved into the city's walls depictions of great battles against endless swarms were not artistic imagination. They were records. They showed humans leading the charge, wielding fire and thunder against the Drexel. The commander followed their stares, his expression darkening as he traced the features of a 1,000-year-old carving that looked too much like his own reflection. "Sir," one of his lieutenants muttered, "those look like—" "Yeah," he cut her off sharply. "I see it." Whispers rippled through the Kuvari ranks. The Guardians return. They walk again. The prophecy holds true. The humans could feel the weight of those stares, expectation thick enough to choke. These people wanted saviors. They wanted gods. And instead, they had been handed a ragged crew of explorers ripped unwillingly from home. The council leader fell to his knees. "Please, the swarm comes. Our world will fall without you." The commander clenched his jaw. The word swarm pricked at his instincts. He didn't know who these people were, or why their ruins bore human faces, but he understood desperation when he saw it, and he understood war. Behind him, one of his soldiers muttered, "This is insane. We're in the wrong place, wrong time. We don't even know where home is anymore." The commander didn't answer. His eyes lingered on the statues on the carved rifles, the battle stances frozen in stone, the depiction of humans, not as gods, but as warriors standing shoulder to shoulder with alien allies. Either this is one hell of a coincidence, or we've been here before. The Kuvari pressed their foreheads to the ground, begging for salvation. The humans stood above them, caught between disbelief and unease. As the storm still churned over the city, like a wound in the sky, and far beyond the clouds, something stirred in the void. The throne hall of the Kivari Council was half ruined, its once golden pillars cracked and blackened from old bombardments. Torches sputtered against the high ceiling, their flickering flames casting long shadows across carved murals of battles. Past, the humans stood before the council, weapons slung, but hands never far from them. The council leader leaned forward, his eyes hollow. "You don't understand. The Drexel are not an army. They are a flood, a hunger without end." The humans exchanged uneasy glances. The commander, arms folded, gave a curt nod for him to continue. The council leader gestured, and a vast hologram bloomed above the chamber. Stars, systems, worlds, one by one. They winked out in crimson markers, their planetary spheres turning black. The hologram zoomed closer, showing archival recordings, cities of glass swallowed in a tide of chitinous creatures, forests stripped bare in seconds, oceans boiling with swarm spawn until nothing living remained, whole planets reduced to husks. The soldiers stiffened. Even through shaky holograms, the creatures radiated menace, black carapaces, jagged mandibles, eyes like pits of void, a tide that crawled, flew, and burrowed. "They do not negotiate," the council leader whispered. "They do not stop. They will hollow this world, as they have countless others." We prayed the Guardians would return, for only they have ever defied the swarm. He looked directly at the humans, and the beacon brought you. Silence hung heavy. The commander paced slowly, boots echoing against stone. "We're not your guardians. We're soldiers on a test mission. Wrong place, wrong time." The council erupted in desperate cries, voices cracking with fury and fear. "You bear their faces. You carry their weapons. You are what was promised." The humans said nothing, but unease gnawed at them. The statues, the murals, now this, were these just coincidences? Or buried truths? One of the soldiers, younger and more impulsive, slammed his fist against the wall. "Sir, we can't stay here. We've got one ship, limited ammo. If what they're saying is true, we don't stand a chance." Another snapped back, voice trembling, "And if we leave, we're condemning them. Look at them, they're begging for help." The tension boiled until the commander cut through with steel in his voice. "Enough." He turned to the hologram again. The sight of those endless black tides stirred something in him, something deep, primal. The same instinct that had carried humans through wars, famines, extinctions, and fire. He remembered his grandmother's words before he shipped out. "The worst thing you can do, Cade, is nothing. Nothing kills more than bullets." He looked at the council leader. "How long until they arrive?" The answer came like a death knell. 3 cycles. No more. The soldiers went quiet. 3 days. The commander's jaw clenched. He wasn't a god. He wasn't a savior. But he looked at the hollow-eyed council, at the statues of warriors that mirrored his own kind, and he knew one thing: walking away would stain them forever. He gave his answer. "We didn't come here to fight your war, but if you're right, those things are coming. You won't stand a chance alone." The council leader sagged with relief. Tears shone in his eyes. The chamber filled with hushed murmurs. The commander rested a hand on his rifle, feeling the weight of the choice he had just made. "We'll help you, not because we're your guardians, but because humanity doesn't stand aside while worlds burn." The throne hall of the Kivari Council was half ruined, its once golden pillars cracked and blackened from old bombardments. Torches sputtered against the high ceiling, their flickering flames casting long shadows across carved murals of battles. Past, the humans stood before the council, weapons slung, but hands never far from them. The council leader leaned forward, his eyes hollow. "You don't understand. The Drexel are not an army. They are a flood, a hunger without end." The humans exchanged uneasy glances. The commander, arms folded, gave a curt nod for him to continue. The council leader gestured, and a vast hologram bloomed above the chamber. Stars, systems, worlds, one by one. They winked out in crimson markers, their planetary spheres turning black. The hologram zoomed closer, showing archival recordings, cities of glass swallowed in a tide of chitinous creatures, forests stripped bare in seconds, oceans boiling with swarm spawn until nothing living remained, whole planets reduced to husks. The soldiers stiffened. Even through shaky holograms, the creatures radiated menace. Black carapaces, jagged mandibles, eyes like pits of void. A tide that crawled, flew, and burrowed. "They do not negotiate," the council leader whispered. "They do not stop. They will hollow this world, as they have countless others." We prayed. The guardians would return, for only they have ever defied the swarm. He looked directly at the humans, and the beacon brought you. Silence hung heavy. The commander paced slowly, boots echoing against stone. "We're not your guardians. We're soldiers on a test mission. Wrong place, wrong time." The council erupted in desperate cries, voices cracking with fury and fear. "You bear their faces. You carry their weapons. You are what was promised." The humans said nothing, but unease gnawed at them. The statues, the murals, now this, were these just coincidences? Or buried truths? One of the soldiers, younger and more impulsive, slammed his fist against the wall. "Sir, we can't stay here. We've got one ship, limited ammo. If what they're saying is true, we don't stand a chance." Another snapped back, voice trembling, "And if we leave, we're condemning them. Look at them, they're begging for help." The tension boiled until the commander cut through with steel in his voice. "Enough." He turned to the hologram again. The sight of those endless black tides stirred something in him, something deep, primal. The same instinct that had carried Humans through wars, famines, extinctions, and fire. He remembered his grandmother's words before he shipped out. The worst thing you can do, Cade, is nothing. Nothing kills more than bullets. He looked at the council leader. How long until they arrive? The answer came like a death knell. 3 cycles. No more. The soldiers went quiet. 3 days. The commander's jaw clenched. He wasn't a god. He wasn't a savior. But he looked at the hollow-eyed council, at the statues of warriors that mirrored his own kind, and he knew one thing: walking away would stain them forever. He gave his answer. We didn't come here to fight your war, but if you're right, those things are coming. You won't stand a chance alone. The council leader sagged with relief. Tears shone in his eyes. The chamber filled with hushed murmurs. The commander rested a hand on his rifle, feeling the weight of the choice he had just made. We'll help you, not because we're your guardians, but because humanity doesn't stand aside while worlds burn. The fires of the first battle still smoldered. Columns of smoke curled into the sky, mingling with the endless Drexel shadows that still lingered overhead. The city was a graveyard of broken walls and shattered towers. Drones lay scattered across the streets, their black carapaces cracked open, ichor seeping into the stone. The Kivari mourned in silence, but the humans moved with grim purpose. Commander Cade and his squad followed a team of alien guides through the ruins. Beneath the council hall, the tunnels smelled of dust, rust, and something older like the earth itself was holding its breath. The guides carried torches that flickered weakly against the carvings on the walls. The further they went, the clearer the images became. Murals, hundreds of them, battles etched into the stone, glowing faintly with crystalline veins. The soldiers stopped in their tracks as their torchlight revealed faces. Not alien faces, human faces, broad shoulders, hard stares, helmets not unlike their own. The murals showed warriors leading armies of Kivari against endless swarms of Drexel. Some carved figures held rifles. Others stood with banners raised high as fire raged behind them. The detail was uncanny, lifelike. A soldier whispered, voice hoarse, Those are us." Another muttered, "No way, no damn way." The council scholar, an elder with gray skin and trembling hands, stepped forward. His voice was reverent, hushed, as if speaking too loudly might disturb the dead. "These are the guardians of legend, the ones who stood before the swarm, the ones who vanished when their work was done." He gestured to one carving a towering figure standing upon a hill of Drexel corpses, rifle raised high. His features were weathered by time, but the resemblance to Cade was unmistakable. Cade froze. His soldiers glanced at him, some half in awe, others unsettled. The scholar's eyes glistened. "And now, they walk again among us." Cade's jaw tightened. He reached out, brushing his fingertips against the stone. It was cool, almost unnaturally smooth, as if the mural had been preserved by something beyond time. He pulled his hand back quickly, unsettled by the connection he couldn't explain. His lieutenant broke the silence. "Sir, this means humans were here. Not just once. Long ago. They fought the swarm before. Which means," Cade finished for her, his voice low and grim, "which means the galaxy forgot." The words echoed in the chamber like a curse. One soldier let out a bitter laugh. "We're not the first. We're just the leftovers. Some ancient war no one remembers, and somehow we got dragged back into it." But Cade's eyes never left the mural. The image of humans standing defiant against the tide stirred something deep within him. Not just fear, not just disbelief. Recognition. The scholar's voice trembled. "You were never gods. You were never angels. You were mortal, but mortals who fought like fire itself. That is why our people called you guardians." Above, a distant tremor shook the earth. The swarm, regrouping, gathering for the next wave. The sound reverberated down into the chamber, rattling loose dust from the ceiling. The soldiers raised their rifles instinctively, but Cade didn't move. His reflection stared back at him from the stone warrior's face. He finally spoke, his voice quiet but unshakable. If this is true, then history made one mistake. Humanity didn't disappear. We were just waiting. The torches flickered, and the swarm's distant screeches echoed again. The past was no longer myth. It was warning. The swarm's second assault did not begin with a scream. It began with silence. Every drone froze mid-flight. Every leviathan stilled its wings. Even the endless psychic wail that had clawed at the city's mind went quiet. The Kivari defenders held their breath, confused by the sudden stillness. The humans knew better battles, didn't pause unless something worse was coming. The earth trembled. A fissure split open in the far plains beyond the city, tearing soil and stone like paper. From the wound in the world, she rose, the Drexel Queen. Form was grotesque, beautiful in its horror. A towering mass of chitin and bone, her body bristled with armored plates that shimmered with sickly green light. Multiple sets of wings unfurled, each large enough to cast a shadow over a city block. Her head, crowned with jagged horns, swiveled with insectile precision, her mandibles clacking like war drums. But it wasn't her body that crushed the defenders' spirits. It was her mind. A psychic shriek ripped across the battlefield. Soldiers dropped to their knees, clutching their heads as blood ran from their ears. Civilians screamed, collapsing in seizures, as their thoughts were drowned in alien command. Even the strongest warriors whimpered, reduced to trembling shells. Cade staggered, gritting his teeth. The voice wasn't sound, it was thought, invasive and cruel, clawing at his skull. Humans. Again. The word wasn't spoken. It blossomed directly inside his brain, a whisper of venom. You return, after so long. I remember your fire, your fury. I buried it once. I will bury it again. Cade fell to one knee, pain flooding his mind, his vision blurred with flashes, not his own memories of wars fought eons ago, of humans standing in defiance, of their bodies broken beneath endless swarm tides. The Queen's voice coiled tighter. You are fragile. You are finite. You cannot stop. The infinite. You are nothing. But then another voice. Not hers. His own. Steady. Fierce. I've heard that before. He forced himself upright, rifle in hand, his glare unbroken, even as the Queen's massive form loomed over him. Around him, his soldiers rose too, faces pale with pain, but unbowed. One by one, they steadied their rifles, forming a defiant line. The Queen paused, through her psychic net. She felt it, the same defiance she had crushed long ago, reborn in these mortals. Rage flared across her alien features, mandibles snapping in fury. Her psychic voice thundered again, echoing across the city. Then I will erase you once more. This time, no star, no world, will remember you. Cade spat blood onto the stone and raised his weapon. You're welcome to try. The humans opened fire. Bolts of plasma and metal tore into the Queen's armored hide. She shrieked, staggering as her leviathans dove to shield her. The battlefield erupted once more, but something had shifted. For the first time, the swarm did not attack like a mindless tide. For the first time, it recoiled, because its Queen knew fear. The Queen's shriek rattled the sky, shaking towers into rubble. Her leviathans circled, their wings blotting out the last traces of sun. The Kivari were on their knees, broken by terror. But in the ashes of despair, the humans stood. Commander. Cade's voice ripped across the comms. On your feet. You want to live? Then stop praying, start fighting. The words cut through the paralysis like steel. His soldiers moved instantly, setting charges, dragging the Kivari up by their arms, shoving weapons into trembling hands. One soldier barked at a group of civilians, slamming a scavenged rifle into the claws of an alien worker. Point, pull, and don't stop shooting. You can do this. The Kivari blinked, confused, but obeyed. The swarm descended again, their screeches piercing the night. Black wings sliced the air, talons scraping stone as they dove. This time, they met fire. The humans had turned the city itself into a trap. Explosives hidden in collapsed buildings detonated in a chain of fire, collapsing entire swarms into the streets below. Jury-rigged plasma turrets roared to life, manned, not by soldiers, but by Kivari villagers, guided by human hands. Swarm drones barreled into alleys only to be met with walls of flame and steel. Humans in Kivari shoulder to shoulder. A swarm leviathan screeched, its bulk crashing through a tower as it dove for the square. Cade didn't flinch. Bring it down. His sniper's rifle cracked. The beast reeled midair. Then a dozen alien rifles joined, guided by human shouts. A torrent of fire slammed into the creature until it spiraled into the ground, carving a smoking crater. The square erupted in cheers, alien voices roaring with a fury. They hadn't known they had. The queen felt it. Through her psychic net, she sensed the shift. The prey was no longer cowering. The prey was fighting back. Worse, it was adapting. Rage tore from her mind, an ear-splitting shriek. She hurled her drones in greater numbers, battering the defenses. Streets cracked under the weight of their assault. Cade stood in the ruins, his armor scorched, rifle spitting fire until it overheated. He wrenched a fallen swarm blade from the ground and hurled it like a spear, pinning a drone against a wall. His soldiers fought beside him, bloodied but relentless. And everywhere, the Kivari fought too. Their eyes burned with something new. Not faith, not desperation, but fury. On a rooftop, a Kivari worker who had never held a weapon before gunned down 3 drones in a single burst. In the square, a mother shielded her children with one arm while firing a scavenged rifle with the other, dropping a beast twice her size. Alien chants rose above the battle, ancient war cries long thought forgotten. For the first time in living memory, the Kivari were no longer victims. The queen herself descended, wings cracking the air. Her psychic voice thundered into every mind. You dare resist me. You dare defy infinity. Cade wiped blood from his brow, his grin feral. Damn right we do. He raised his rifle toward her towering form. His soldiers and the Kivari, raising theirs beside him, a single world. United in defiance, opened fire on the queen. She staggered. Not destroyed, not slain, but wounded. Her shriek carried across the sky, not in triumph, but in fury. She lifted her vast wings and retreated into the storm clouds, her swarm pulling back in her wake. This world will burn, but first, I will find Earth. The battlefield was silent at last. Smoke curled from shattered towers. The streets were littered with broken chitin, ichor pooling in black rivers. The air still carried the acrid stench of plasma fire and scorched stone. The queen was gone into the storm, but her shadow lingered in every trembling heart. For the first time in generations, the Kivari were alive after a swarm assault, and for the first time, the swarm had retreated. The survivors gathered in the ruins of the plaza, thousands strong. Their chants rose weakly at first, then louder, echoing across the city's wounds. Guardians, 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 commander. Cade and his soldiers stood at the center, armor scarred, faces grim. They had fought through hell and refused to break. But as the aliens bowed to them, Cade's eyes remained hard. He wasn't basking in worship. He was calculating, thinking. Because the queen's last words weren't for the Kivari, they were for Earth. The council leader limped forward, his robes torn and stained. His voice trembled with both awe and desperation. You have saved us. You have done what no one else could. Stay, please lead us. With you, we can rebuild. With you, we can resist the swarm forever. The crowd roared their agreement, voices thundering like drums. But Cade shook his head. You don't understand. We're not your gods. We're not your guardians. He paused, glancing at the murals, at the statues, at the faces that mirrored his own. We're just human. The council leader looked stricken. Then why answer, our beacon? Why fight? For us. Cade's voice dropped into iron. Because we've seen what happens when no one fights back. Because we don't walk away when others burn. That's who we are. The words cut through the plaza like fire. The Kivari weren't cheering now. They were listening. One of Cade's lieutenants stepped forward, voice sharp. And don't mistake this for the end. You heard her. The Queen knows Earth exists now. She'll come for us. Which means, she looked at the council, at the gathered aliens, which means the swarm won't just be your problem anymore. It'll be everyone's. A cold wind swept the plaza. The thoughts settled heavily over them all. Cade turned, his soldiers already preparing their battered ship. He glanced back at the sea of alien faces, at the hope burning in their eyes. He didn't smile. Remember this day. Not because you were saved, but because you stood and fought when the galaxy said you couldn't. Keep fighting. Don't stop. That's how you win. The humans boarded their vessel. Engines flared, fire reflecting against the broken city. As the ship lifted into the sky, the Kivari raised their fists, chanting once more not prayers, not pleas, but war cries. Guardians, guardians, guardians. The ship vanished into the clouds. Above the world, the swarm still lingered in the dark, regrouping. Somewhere beyond, the Queen nursed her wounds, her mind burning with hatred. Humans, she remembered them now. She feared them now, and she would not stop until Earth was ash beneath her wings. In the void, Cade stared out at the stars, his reflection hard in the glass. He knew the war wasn't over. It was only beginning. But if the swarm wanted Earth, they would learn why humanity had once been feared, why history had buried their name, and why this time the galaxy would never forget.